Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Daniel, one half of the Clock Brothers, and in this video, we're going to talk about what is a subject to strategy. All right, guys, welcome back. Now, guys, imagine if I were to tell you that there are ways to acquire a property, no money down, but it's not owner financing. That's right? And it's weird because I preach owner financing a lot, right? Because I'm kind of known as the owner financing guy, right? I want to talk about something today called subject to acquisition. Now, before we go ahead and talk about what that even is or how it's used or what the benefits are, guys, please like and subscribe to this video. It would really help us out a lot. And let's just play a little game. Let's say for every like or subscribe or how many times you share this video, it's how many times you're going to do a subject to transaction in your career. And trust me, after hearing what I have to say about subject to, you're going to want to hear it. So again, guys, right, go ahead and like and subscribe to our video. It's going to help us out a lot. All right, so what exactly is subject to financing? Well, subject to is exactly what it sounds like. You're buying a property subject to their existing financing. So what this pretty much means is you're pretty much exchanging the ownership of a building, property, or asset, and you're pretty much taking their place and you're paying the mortgage without you having to get a new mortgage. Now, I have to stress this because this is really important. When you're taking the place of somebody else's mortgage, the bank will still underwrite you, meaning that they're still going to analyze you, they're still going to look at your financials to make sure that you are a good risk in comparison to the person you're taking over for. So let's create a little scenario to help you guys better understand what it is. So let's say you've got Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith has owned this property for the last 5 years, right? Let's say he lives in it, right? He lives in the house, and let's say Mr. Smith all of a sudden has, he's lost his job and he's tried selling this property for a very long time. And at the end of the day, he went back to renting and, he's living in an apartment with his wife and, let's say he's got a kid for the sake of the example. And he's just trying to sell this house because while he's renting, he's paying rent, but at the same time, he's having to pay a mortgage and it hasn't been able to sell. And there's a lot of issues. That's what's happening. Now, I always structure and explain every single real estate strategy based on what problems it solves. Because at the end of the day, as real estate entrepreneurs, we are professional problem solvers within the real estate industry. That's what we are hopefully doing, right? And hopefully why you're watching this video, because you want to know more tools so you can help solve people's problems. So how do we solve Mr. Smith's problem? How do we do that, right? Well, it's simple. Let's say that we try the owner financing route, right? Let's say we try it. But number one, he doesn't even want anything to do with the property. He doesn't even want a note attached to the property. And not only that, let's say we try it and the monthly payment that I would give to him is lower than the mortgage that he's going to have to pay to the bank every single month. Now, if you're watching this video and you don't know what owner financing is, guys, I encourage you to check out some of our other videos that we have on owner financing. I have a 30-minute video that literally talks about how to negotiate for owner financing. We have a free 2-3 hour class on owner financing. Click on the links in the description below and you'll have access to it all for free. That's right. You don't have to pay anything. You can just get it right now, right? So let's say it doesn't work out. The owner financing payment is not enough to cover his bank and he really just wants to get rid of it, pretty much. Well, what I can do is I can do a subject to the existing mortgage and I could take his place in the mortgage. Meaning that the mortgage that he has with the bank, I could then in turn just take his place. Now, I may pay a premium, all right? I may just give him some money just to walk away. But in most subject to scenarios that I have personally seen myself, that's not the case. You literally just take the place of the individual paying the mortgage. And well, there's a lot of things that's going to have to happen. Now, obviously, you are going to have to take it through the underwriting process, meaning the bank is going to have to analyze you. Why? Because, well, if somebody else is taking place of that individual in the mortgage, they want to know their financials as well. Because at the end of the day, the banks are in the business of risk, of loaning money and assessing their risk. They want to see if they're a better or you're a worse risk than the guy taking over that mortgage. And depending on if it's better or worse, they may make some changes. Now, let's talk about in what context will this work, right? Can you use it on a fix and flip? Can you use it on a buy and hold? Now, guys, I'm here to tell you, you could do it for both. So first off, let's talk about a fix and flip scenario, right? So same scenario, let's say Mr. Smith, he's owned the property for 4 months, and let's say that it's an area where you see it as a pretty good fix and flip market. Well, you can just use subject to acquire the property, because at the end of the day, subject to is just an acquisitional strategy, all it is. And you could pretty much pay the mortgage, right? Which means you don't have to pay cash as you traditionally would for the acquisition of the property. So instead of paying 50 grand to buy the house, whatever it may be, because let's say it's a scenario where you offer Mr. Smith 50 grand, but it's not enough, right? It's not enough to pay down the debt that he's got on the property, right? And unless you fix it up and there's equity and you increase the value by rehabbing it, it's not going to suffice the debt service that's already remaining on the property. So you offer him 50 grand and he says, no, I can't do that, I'm sorry, because I have a $75,000 loan on the property, so it just wouldn't work. But let's say that you do the numbers and you actually would end up, the after repair value would actually end up being 150 grand. So there's a lot of money to be made here. So in this case, you would offer a subject to acquisition where you pretty much pay his mortgage every single month. You take the place, you take Mr. Smith's place in the mortgage, and let's say you rehab it for 5-6 months, you pay the mortgage off for 5-6 months, you sell the property and you pay off the note. That's a win-win for everyone, because while Mr. Smith gets rid of the house, right, you make your profits, you don't have to come up with 50 grand up front, the banks get all their money back because the loan is paid off, and you make some money on the side as a fix and flipper. So that subject to acquisition solves everybody's problem. Well, it's the same thing in a buy and hold. In a buy and hold, let's say the seller is extremely motivated, Mr. Smith just wants to get rid of it, he doesn't care. Well, in that case, that's perfect, because, well, you have means of producing income with that property, whereas Mr. Smith doesn't. Because for Mr. Smith, it's not an investment property, it's a primary residence, where you have a different plan and a different idea with that property. You could perhaps rent it out by the bedroom, you could perhaps put it on a platform like Airbnb, you could pay the mortgage, and you could utilize the ownership to make more money through a strategy, whereas Mr. Smith probably wouldn't have thought of that strategy, or even had the resources or the team or the knowledge to execute like you would. So again, guys, hopefully this video was helpful in understanding what is subject to acquisition, in terms of what it is and how you can use it in a couple different scenarios. If you guys have any questions, leave it down in the comment section below or email me at info@thekwokbrothers.com. Again, guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. All the links are in the description below. I'll see you guys in the next one.